Welcome to the Pineapple Pinup, the Hot Wife Life podcast. On today's podcast, I talk about a house party that I went to. I also talk about some tips and tricks for throwing a house party. And my final segment is a question I got from a listener that I wanted to share with you about starting a conversation where and when you start dipping your toe. I went to a house party over the weekend and I wore this blue dress with long sleeves and a very long skirt. But the skirt was split up the sides. Like there was actually a hook and eye to keep it closed partially part of the way down. And that part of the way down was right at my hip bones. So kind of above my pubis, if you will. So because it was above my pubis, the dress was scandalous. Okay. I mean that in the nicest possible way. It was, it didn't help. I'm pretty sure it didn't help that I wore no panties underneath of it. Because if I'd worn panties underneath of it, it probably would have given it an air of at least semi-decency, but not me. I was like, we're going out, vagina first. The problem is that when you wear a dress like this, you're wearing it for a statement. You're wearing it for how it makes you feel. The thing that you can never factor in that should be a factor, but is an unpredictable factor, is the weather. When the wind starts blowing and it takes the front panel of the dress, the only thing that's keeping you even slightly modest and just basically blows it up into your face, it is beyond a Marilyn Monroe moment. It is literally, it's street nudity. So the dress, let me start at the beginning with this dress. So my husband and I, we always stop because we know it's a long drive and we know that I'm not going to eat at a party. So he grabs me a quick snack and he grabs me a drink and he grabs himself a drink and a quick snack because he can eat at a party, but there's no guarantee that there will be something he can eat at the party. When we stopped, we pulled up to the drive-through window and the girl inside looked over and saw the way that the dress sat the entirety of both my thighs. I was barely not flashing her. She looked into our car as she's handing us our drink and she smiled at me and she goes, "Have a good time." And I knew right then and there that she saw what I was doing and where I was going. And for me, it was so exciting. It was like, oh, this girl gets it. We drove for 2 hours to get to this house party, okay? And that is a massive chunk of time for us to be traveling in this area. You can travel that far. You can travel that long. I mean, that time period, if there is horrible traffic, very easily here. But traveling that distance when traffic was mediocre, was a long haul for us. So if you figure it takes you 2 hours to get there, it's going to take you 2 hours to get back. And exactly how late at night can you drive after you have expended a great deal of energy at this house party? And how far can you drive safely to get home? So we have to plan those things out because it wasn't like we were staying over. That wasn't really an option. So we knew that we were going to have to leave early to get back. So that's factoring in a lot to how the night ended up. Because we know that we've got to go in order to arrive alive. We're driving and we are getting there, and now, mind you, where we live right now, it is very hot. It is very humid. It is 6 degrees of disgusting. I mean, it's like, and I mean, there are places that are hotter and there are places that are more humid and there are places that have more bugs and I get it. But I am a girl who does not like summer. So this is my time to fully cry and moan about the weather. So we're heading up there, and my husband is literally putting all the vents in the car on me and dropping the temperature so that I do not overheat because the man knows me. And I really miss it. My last car had a vagina cooler. It had air conditioning seats. The new ones, they don't make that anymore, so it's just the heated seats. Ugh, such a tragedy. But anyway, so we're driving up there. It is taking a long time. My husband and I are talking in the car. We are trying to rev each other up. We're trying to keep each other in the moment. We are going, I'm writing messages to people while he's driving. There's a bunch of activity that's going on. We are trying very hard to use these 2 hours to keep the mood alive. So when we arrive, we park where we're supposed to park. And we're told, hey, I need a couple minutes. I'll let you know when you can come in. So we waited in the car. Now, while I'm sitting in this car, I can see somebody moving something out of their house into a truck in front of us. And behind us, there's somebody who's going in and out to their vehicle like they're getting ready to go somewhere. But they're going in and out. So he finally comes to get us, and there's a big storm brewing because of all the heat and the humidity. There's a storm that's blowing through, and it is a kind of a wild storm. So it is taking lots of wind and blowing us around. So now you factor, in front of us there's a truck. Behind us, there's a car, and there are neighbors in the street. And my dress is scandalous. And the wind starts blowing. And I am like, oh, good Lord, I am going to flash his fucking neighbors. So we finally get into the house, and then the party's set up in the basement. So we go down to the basement, and we're sitting there, and we're waiting for the rest of the people to arrive. We are chatting and talking, and then more people come, and we're chatting and talking to them. And mind you, people came from 3 different states, actually 4 different states to this party because of where he's located. It's right at a corner of 3 states. So it was really interesting to talk to people who are coming from the northern part, because we came from the southern, and then people who are coming from the east and the west. It was interesting to talk to all of these people and, find out what the scene is like in their area, because this is probably the furthest away any of us are traveling to be at a party. So it was really, really super cool to talk to all these people and find out what kink is like in their area. A couple of them had talked about various clubs that are located near where they are. And we are so gearing up to go to some of these places because, oh my God, they sound amazing. And once I finally go there, I will tell you I will tell you all about them. So we're talking and we're chatting and we're waiting for more people to arrive. Meanwhile, he's enlisting a couple guys help to help him bring down a futon because there's 8 seats, and there's a long couch that seats 3, an armchair that seats 1, a love seat that seats two, a bean bag, and a folding chair. This is exactly 8 seats. So there are exactly, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's exactly, doing some math. Hold on. Yeah, it's 8 seats. Okay. And he goes up to get a futon so that there's a place for everybody to fuck. Now he has invited, there were 5 women there. There were 5 men there. Now, mathematically, that's a good ratio for a party. Except, my husband doesn't play. So now it's 4 playing guys to 5 women. So we're kind of off on our numbers now. The futon was not huge, so it made it difficult for more than a couple of women to play at one time. And we had to do basically doggy style, facing one side of the bed, because there was no way to get around the other side of the bed for somebody to stand there. So it was one side of the bed, and basically our asses are to the backs of the people sitting in the lounge area. Now, the party started with blowjobs. I gave several blowjobs just sitting where I was. Now, the best part about this party was a bunch of my guys were there. No, I'm sorry, there were 11 people there. Yeah, there were 11 people there. Because I guess you take out my husband, or the host. I'm not sure. But the host was there, who I knew. My friend Jay was there, who I have played with many, 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 many times. My friend Red was there, who I've played with many, 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 many times. He was actually one of the first people to throw me a gangbang. He was instrumental in that. And he and I have played many times. And we have a very good rapport. So 3 of my guys were there. 3 of the host and I have played multiple times, and we've gone to many parties together. It was fun. It was fun to see my guys again. I'm there and I know the tricks. I'm sucking Jay and I'm playing with his nipples because that's what I know gets Jay going. With Red, I'm like taking him as deep as I can, and he's a thick, long dick motherfucker. And I am not even joking you that it is a rough, but he wants it as deep as you can possibly get it. And he likes that gluck gluck sound. You know what turns him on and what gets him going. D, who is the host, he was very distracted. It was kind of hard to get him fully revved up and focused on, because he was so busy trying to do too many things, that it was really hard to get him focused on just enjoying what was happening. So we moved to the couch, or to the futon, and it's very distracting because there's not a lot going on. So we're having a hard time maintaining the thing that we just worked so hard to build. And then, so then new people are stepping in to try to fill the void, basically. So I ended up fucking J, Red, and D briefly. Everything was very brief. So we had to leave because we had to make it home. And so we were only there about 2.5 hours, and we probably only played maybe 45 minutes because by the time everything got set up and blah, 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 we ended up leaving, and it was all very, very brief. But I still had a really good time. And my husband, I had a couple of orgasms, and he was enjoying watching me suck so many cocks right in front of his face because I was very close to him. So it was all really fun for that reason. But we ended up taking off because we had to get home, and we didn't get home until like almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's a late night because my husband, of course, is getting up to work on Saturday mornings. It was a long, long day for him. But we had a great time, and it was fun. Let's talk about tips and tricks for throwing a house party. If you have invited 10 people to your house, have 10 places for people to sit. That's just etiquette. That's just rules. If you have 5 women there, you need to have 5 places for people to fuck. Because the whole point of a fuck party is that everyone is feeling the energy, feeling the vibe, and it becomes very Caligula. It becomes very, very bacchanalia. It's all sex and movement and less high school boy-girl party, okay? Another thing, that if you are having a house party, there are certain things that you need to have. Now, we were saved because somebody brought these things, and it ended up making the whole thing work really well. But when his friend showed up, he had a friend that came from up north. They were people who threw parties regularly. They had a hoe-to-go. And in their hoe-to-go, they had 2 lights, which allowed us to turn off the overhead lights and make it less glaring. They had a boombox, which allowed us to turn on some music so that it didn't have to be talking all the time. They had a shower curtain to cover the futon. They had basically pee protective, like pee pads, to protect the sheets so that those could be interchanged between the women. They had bottled water. They had pudding shooters. They basically brought a party with them. And it was great because it allowed us all to actually have place to play and not damage anything. It ended up being really awesome that these people showed up. Now, they did not really get a chance to play. I'm having some flashbacks to what actually happened. Your main goal when you're throwing a party is to create the right ambiance, because there's a line at which your party just goes to a social gathering rather than a fuck party. Because if it gets too far past a certain amount of time chit-chatting, then it's going to get too awkward for anyone to actually strip down. There's a line, and you've got to get the party moving before you hit that. And we came very, very close to just having like a social gathering, because there was not a lot of place to play, and there was not a lot of motivation to get the party started because the host was kind of distracted. He disappeared for a bit, not sure where he went, but he disappeared. And like by the time my husband and I left, I had no idea where he was. This is just one of those things that you learn going to a party, there's a point at which if things aren't moving, they're never going to move. And my husband looked at me and he was like, get on with it. And so I ended up taking off my clothes because that tends to start a party. That tends to start the party going. There are pitfalls. There are pitfalls however you do this. There are pitfalls in the space that we're using, that you're using. You've got to be really cognizant of who you're inviting, how many people you have room for, the space that you're going to expect everybody to be in. The setup probably needs to happen before everybody arrives so that there's a clear defined, this is where we're doing whatever it is that we're doing. There's a lot involved. And setting up a party and making sure that you have the right lighting, you have the ambient noise or the music, making sure that that you have places to fuck that are not going to get damaged. There's so many things that factor in, and you as the host need to really consider what it is that you're expecting to have happen and what it's going to look like and the configuration of how you're going to get everyone to play. So that being said, there's no such thing as there's no rule that says there's no rule as to who can throw a party and who can't, okay? You can throw the party that you want, but just think about what your guests are walking into. Think about where everybody's going to sit until it's time to start the party, where everybody's going to actually participate in the party. Because they were leather couches. And I don't know if any of you women out there have ever sat on a leather couch without clothes on. It is like peeling duct tape off. It is so, especially if you've started to like do some activity and you've gotten, I don't know, wet or hot. And now it's like you're basically either sliding off because it's too wet or you are sticking to it because you're just the right amount of wet. There are certain things that you need to consider when you want people to have a good time at your house or at your party or at your play space. The seating, the places to be, where do you have the food set up? Where do you have literally people were trying to get behind humping asses to get to the water. You've got to think about your logistics. Where are you going to put things? Where are you going to put people? Where are you going to do things? And that is a major factor of what it is of a successful party. Trying to make sure that you have a good balance of guests, a good balance of space, and all that good stuff. So those are my thoughts on a successful party, how to throw one, because it is very, very important because you've invited people into your home or into a play space, and somehow it's your responsibility to make sure that everybody has a good time. And how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you make everyone feel comfortable? And a lot of that has to do with the space and the ambiance that you're providing. So bear that in mind when you throw a party, because those factors, having his friend show up with those things with them, changed the party entirely, changed the mood of the party, changed the reality of the party. And it ended up being fun and there was actually action going on. So remember what it is you want people to do and how comfortable they're going to feel doing that in that space. So I got a message from a new listener. And Jared said, "We are in the dip our toes stage. Any tips or thoughts on or advice on that you're willing to share?" And I followed up with, "What part of the lifestyle are you trying to get into? What's the dynamic you're going for?" Same room, play, swinging. I'm open to watch her with others. Initially, we think same room, no. We're thinking same room, swap with another couple. So my recommendation was the same recommendation I have for everything. If you're in the dip your toe stage, I highly recommend going to a hotel party or going to where you're not required to play with anyone other than your partner, and you can watch and participate to your comfort level. If you go to a hotel floor takeover, that kind of a thing, it's going to be more interesting and give you a look at what the lifestyle has to offer without any pressure or without any pressure to perform. It's a great way to get a view of what the lifestyle has to offer without feeling the pressure to be involved. It also allows you guys to get a grasp on what's possible and discuss how it makes you feel imagining the other person engaging. It's a conversation starter, to be sure. Now, this is important because there's no right way or wrong way. And if you want to go to there's a bunch of ways to get started in the lifestyle. You can go to a lifestyle meet and greet. You can talk to a couple online and find out, where they are, and see if you can maybe have a dinner and talk about doing a one-on-one swap. But when you're dipping your toe in, when you're trying to find out what your kink really is, one of the best ways to do it is in a setting where there's no pressure for you to do anything other than show up. You don't I can tell you, my husband and I went to numerous hotel parties and we didn't participate. We participated, but not trying anything out. And because we didn't try anything out, because we didn't go there for that purpose, we went there to be voyeurs. We went there to see what the lifestyle had to offer. It started the conversation for us. It started giving us our boundaries. So for me, I'm a big advocate for going to a large space where things are actually happening, so you can wrap your mind around what the lifestyle actually can be. Because when you go to a meet and greet and you meet individual people and you talk to individual people and you get their story, it doesn't kind of give you anything other than a story. When you go to a hotel party and you see the whole thing in action, when you see the whole thing moving and vibing and going, that is, that can be exciting. That can tell you possibilities. That can give you more of an idea of what you might be facing. And having that be something where you can point to examples of, this made me feel this way, and this one made me a little uncomfortable, but I don't think I was uncomfortable in a bad way. And this one made me real squishy. Having those conversations that help you define your boundaries, help you define what it is that you're looking for, help you really think about what it is that you are trying to accomplish with this lifestyle, is so incredibly helpful. It's so incredibly defining, because there are many, many, many times when you can get so incredibly esoteric about what is happening and what is possible that you forget that it's an actual physical act that's going to happen. So putting yourself in a situation where you can observe the physical act, and you can observe how the lifestyle goes, and you can observe the lead up part, and you can participate in the conversation, and you can find people that spark your interest, and then you can see what it is that they're doing at that party. And then, it gives you fuel for the conversation that you want to be having with your partner, by giving you reference points, by giving you definitions, by giving you the language, so that way, when you speak of the thing that you are trying to get accomplished, you have the same vernacular, you have the same experience, you have the same what you saw, and using that as an example of what it is that you're trying to get accomplished. I think that one of the staples of the lifestyle is communication. One of the staples of the lifestyle is communication. If you do not have communication, this is going to be a wreck. This is going to be just a disaster. This is going to be freaking, it's not going to be pretty. It is going to be real bad. It's going to be so, like, you need to have the communication. But the problem is that, let's say it's the man approaching the woman, okay? And the only idea you have about swinging came from porn, but your wife's not watching that porn. How are you going to convey the ideas that you saw in this hyper reality into terms she's going to be able to understand in her daily life? It's going to be difficult. No matter how you look at it, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get to the point where she understands what it is you're asking for, and she's going to comprehend that you're not just looking to cheat on her. Okay? You can explore the dynamics by having the same language. You can talk about it by having the same vernacular, by knowing the same jargon, okay? Putting yourselves both in a situation where you can point to examples of what this means to you is very dynamic. It's very sparking of the conversation. So put yourself in a position where you can educate yourself on what it is that you're looking for without the pressure to be involved in the thing that you are hoping to communicate about. It's just an idea. I don't know if this is, like, if you guys are both mutually agreed that you want to start dipping your toe in this particular set of waters, then start small. If you want to start even smaller, go ahead and start even smaller. Go to the munches, go to the meet and greets, go to the places where swingers hang out and find one another. But again, that's going to put you into a social setting. And a social setting is much different than an actual activity setting. So if you're trying to navigate this and you want the answers to the questions before you are in a position where you are forced to perform, give yourself the opportunity to explore it voyeur style. Is this something that you're even going to be interested in once you've seen it happen? And not in a porn setting, because believe me when I tell you, porn is not real life. No matter how many times you watch it, no matter how many times you quote the lines, it's not real life. So, giving yourself the opportunity to explore what it is that you're looking into without the pressure of doing it is golden. And giving yourself the jargon and the vernacular and putting yourselves on the same page so that when you start having the communication, you're having the same communication with one another. Because there are many times when you think you're having one conversation and your partner thinks they're having a totally different conversation. And that's when there's misconception and there's misunderstanding and there is misfiring and your boundaries are not clearly defined. But when you are talking and you're on the same page, it's the exact same thing I talk about when I talk about listening to Cuck My Life, that podcast. When I listen to Cuck My Life, that podcast, Cuck My Life, I am given an insight into the language that my husband is using. I am given an insight into the language that he is defining himself by. I am given an insight into the male brain. And I can tell you that even through all of the communication that we're having and the successful communication that we're having, we're still having misunderstandings because his vocabulary, his vernacular is different than my own sometimes. And where he's standing in this swinger lifestyle is different from the one I'm standing in. That is why if you guys are looking to do something, if you guys are looking to dip your toe, take a minute. Figure out what it is that you're searching for and see if you can find an example of it. And then maybe go witness it. Put yourselves on the same page as everybody else. But anyway, that's my advice for that, because I honestly believe with my entire heart that when you are seeking to create opportunity to be in the lifestyle, that you're never going to have it all figured out. You are going to have to evolve into this lifestyle. It is going to take some missteps. It is going to take some, it's going to take some hard left turns, and you're going to not really realize what it was there, what your initial thought of what it was going to be is probably not where it's going to end up for you. So if you're going to have the most important part of the lifestyle, which is your marriage, okay, stay intact. You need to do as much as you can to break down communication barriers, to break down the misunderstandings, to break those down and keep them from happening. And that comes from active listening, honest communication. Like when somebody says, "What do you want?" and you're like, "Oh, I don't know." But you do know what you want, but you're trying to pussyfoot around it and not seem like, I don't know, whatever it is that you're afraid of sounding like. Are you afraid you're going to sound like a pervert? Well, guess what, son? It's probably a perversion that you want to explore. So be honest about it. Tell the truth. If you know what you're looking for and you are opening the gates of the communication. Now, obviously, do not just be like, don't just walk up to somebody and say, "I want to fuck other people." That's not going to go over well. It's not going to go over well. But If you talk to somebody and you start the conversation and say, the most important thing to me is this marriage, but there are other things that I think we would find exciting to explore. And if we are going to explore them, I want to do it together. And this is what I am thinking about. This is what I am fantasizing about. And I need you to tell me how you feel about those fantasies. And I need you to tell me how you feel and what your fantasies are. So that way, maybe we can find something to bring that excitement. Because this marriage is the most important thing to me. But maybe we do some spice. Maybe we bring some of that excitement we once had back into it. And if that's the conversation you need to have, great. But you know, a lot of times you know what you want, but you're trying so hard to please the other person by not wanting the things that you want, that you are allowing miscommunication to happen. If you are starting the conversation and you're having the conversation and you have opened up this conversation, then have the full fucking conversation. Say the things. I know that it's fucking scary. Believe me when I tell you, I have been in this situation. I looked at my husband square in his eye and I said to him, I need more dick. I said that to him. That conversation did not go where I wanted it to go, but it was one of many conversations that we had. And so when you want to have this conversation, when you want to have this talk and you want to explore this lifestyle, it may take a couple of different times to have a conversation to get to the root of what it is that you're asking for. But don't feel like you can't be honest, because nothing has happened yet. Nothing has gone sideways. Nothing has gone off the rails. Your marriage is still, it's all just fantasy. So in that realm of the fantasy, if we're starting the conversation and you are talking about fantasy, and you can be frank, you can say, I don't want you to hold this against me, but this is my fantasy. And it may take some time, because my husband's initial reaction to me saying something like, I need more dick, was not what I'd hoped it would be. And it led to further conversations that brought us full circle to where we are now. So that's my advice on that. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast. And if you have any questions or have anything you want to talk about, you can reach out to me at pineapplepinuppod@gmail.com. My socials are in the show description, so feel free to reach out to me there. Really quick, I just want to mention that when you are on the topic of fantasy, make sure that you head over to privateadventures.net and grab yourself some show and tell. And don't forget to use my promo code pineapplepinup10.